I'll call the
Move
meeting to order.
adoption of the agenda.
Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Okay, moved by Director Lee, second by Director Abram. Just before we get going, a couple of comments. Just to let everybody know we're meeting provincial guidelines and conducting our meetings as per usual. Make sure you please use the chat for your function for your discussion. And as everyone can see, it's a fairly large agenda, so I'd appreciate your help in keeping the flow going. So,
There's just a note from one director saying, please mute. She's having a hard time hearing. So when we're not speaking, Mr. Chair, that'd be great. Didn't really mean you, Mr. Chair.
sorry. Didn't recall hitting the button. Okay, anyways. We moved the adoption, so petition delegations, there are none. Adoption of the minutes of regular meeting on September 16th.
Move.
Moved by Director Lee, second by
Second, Abram.
Director Abram. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, we'll carry on. No business arising. No public considerations. Any notions or motions?
Just a sec. I did have a little business arising.
Okay, go ahead, Brenda.
Okay, I just wanted to report back to the board that the meeting last Saturday of the Van Corellan Regional Library Board produced a unanimous support for our VIRL 2021 to 2025 budget and financial plan, which was an increase average of 1.87% over last year's budget. So under the cost of inflation.
Excellent, thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move forward. That's nothing on the public considerations. No notes of motion. Chair's report. I have a short couple things here. I think everybody's aware at this time, Director Babchuk is on unpaid leave until October 24th, till after the election, and we'll go from there after that. Congratulations to Director Evans on her AVICC appointment, and condolences to Director Mulgrove on her UBCM. Can't believe it was a tie, the first ballot. Unbelievable. UBCM was definitely different, and I will say UBCM staff did a fantastic job of arranging motions, voting, and everything else. It was excellent. And just one more thing, Cal meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Motion received my verbal report.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Director Colburn and Director Adams, thank you. Nothing on the consent calendar. On the committee chair reports, first item we have Electoral Area Service Committee. Motion received. Thank you.
So moved.
Director Colburn. And Director Kerr.
Are you not hearing me, Brad?
Yes, anything to add?
Okay, nope.
Nope, you're good, okay. No discussion? Anyone opposed? Seeing none's carried. Item 2, Strathcona Gardens Commission. Draft minutes of the Strathcona Gardens on September 16th.
Receipt.
Director Lee,
Second.
seconder. Director Anderson, thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Minister Journal reports, under staff reports. First one, Environmental Sensitive Area Development Permit Plan.
Receipt.
TPC 20. Director Lee moved receipt. Seconder. Director Wally.
Second,
Anything to add, CEO?
Nothing from the staff, Mr. Chair.
Cool. Anything else? Director Lee, anything to add?
No, it looks fine to me. And you're looking forward to seeing this brand new house coming in on the waterfront, add to our tax base.
Super, thank you. Anything else? If not, I'm looking for a motion for B.
Move B.
Director Lee, seconder. Director Wally. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Second item, development permit application, Harry Bay True Value Foods. Director Abram,
Yeah, so moved for receipt.
seconder.
Second.
Director Lee. Anything to add, CO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Cool. Anything from director?
No, that's good.
Cool. On to B then.
And B, the commercial development permit DP 3C20 be approved. And the
Seconder.
corporate officer be authorized to issue the development permit.
Second.
Second by Director Wally. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Third item, Quatsi Cove sewer rates bylaw amendment. Director Abram,
So moved.
seconder.
Second.
Director Lee. In the ad CO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Anything in Director Abram?
No, just making sure that there will be letters going out to the people within the sewer district.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Item B. Director Abram,
So moved. Yeah, so moved.
seconder. Director Lee. Any discussion?
Just point of order, Mr. Chair. I think we should still be asking on the A items, the receipt from the CO's reports, just if there's any dissent so that we formally have those motions approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so item B has been moved. Anyone opposed? Seeing none. Item C, that report be prepared.
Yep, move item C.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Director Lee, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing nothing, opposed? Call carried. Item 4, Sayward Valley Internet Service, Director Wally. Moved by Director Wally, second by
Second, Abram.
thank you. Anything CO?
Director Cornfield has a question. Nothing from staff, though.
Okay, Director Cornfield. Director Cornfield?
Hang on just a second. I was turned off here on, I had muted myself. So the, I guess, how does this fit in with our connected coast? And will that be part of the negotiations of the settlement of the existing contract?
Yeah, I'm anticipating it will. There's some fiber that's owned by the regional district and some infrastructure that likely we will like to provide some last mile services for. So yeah, there's definitely a connection to the connected coast here.
Okay, and I was enlightened, or at least glad to see that the CRTC ruling on the rates charged by the 4 majors in Canada was upheld in the Supreme Court of Appeal. So where they have to reduce their rates. So if an organization like the one in Sayward has to connect through, at least we know the rates will be reduced over what they were.
Thank you, Director Cornfield. Any other questions? Seeing none. Move to part B, the staff negotiate a settlement of contracts with Sayward Valley Communications, Mascon Cable, and the Village of Sayward. And that staff seeks legal counsel in regards to the breaches of contract and termination, and that the chair of the SRD board write a letter to the Village of Sayward requesting a detailed ledger outlining all transactions affecting the internet upgrade fund since inception. Motion by,
Looks like moved by Wally, second by
Wally,
Colburn.
second by Director Kerr. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 5, Community Resilience Investment Grant Opportunity, Director Abram.
Yes. So moved.
Okay, your seconder, Director
Second.
Wally. Thank you. Anything to add, CEO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Anything to add, Director Abram?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to part B, that the application of 21 Community Resilience Investment Grant Program be submitted for fire smart activities in electoral areas, and the regional district commit to overall grant management if the application is successful.
So
Motion.
moved.
Thank you. Seconder, Director Anderson. Great. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, call carried. Next item, 6, grant opportunity, Surgeon Narrows Store Site Revitalization. Director Abrams,
So moved. So moved on the
Second.
CEO's report.
second Director Lee. CEO, anything to add?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair?
Joe? And we have a question from Director Cornfield.
Just the, in the map that was part of it, and I'm, don't get me wrong, I support the intent of looking after it, but the map wasn't clear on the upland portion that we own. And I noticed that there was, Chris, where is it? I'm trying to find it on in the report. There was an image that had the property identified, but there's a building included in a portion. God, I can't find the darn thing right now. And maybe perhaps Director Abram could just help me out on this one.
Sure, I'd be glad to if I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Director Abrams.
Okay, so the property is roughly 6.5 acres. It is ours. The buildings that are on the property, the one building down by the water is the old Surgeon Narrows historic store, which is part on land, part on pilings. And then there's a decrepit old building back behind it that is most likely going to be torn down and disposed of. So other than that, I don't believe there's any other buildings there except for the next door neighbor of on the property that we subdivided this property. His residence will still remain there. The property will still remain in his name at about another 6 acres. So that's where it's at. And I don't have it in front of me to look at, Charlie, but I'm just going by memory.
So looking at the map, it's got a blue line and it's got a red line in the yellow project area. Do we own the old store that was half land, half piling?
Yes, we do.
Okay, because the line cuts through the building, so that's what I wanted to clarify. So thank you.
Okay,
If
thank
I
you.
may, the reason the line cut. Am I on, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, you're breaking up though, Director Abram.
Okay, sorry. I'm turning the video off for a sec. The line basically is the delineation between the upland, which is land, and the other is Crown foreshore lease, which we also have. So we have that entire lease in front of it from Glenroe. But they have to keep them divided because they are divided. They're separate pieces.
Okay, thank you, Director Abram. Any other discussion? Seeing none, anyone opposed to the CO report? Seeing none, I'll call that carried. And on to item B.
Item B, I'd like to move the application be submitted to the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Rural and Northern Communities Grant Program for the revitalization of the Surgeon Narrows Store Building, Boardwalk, and Floating Dock at Reed Island, and that the regional district support the project and commits to its share of costs or cost overruns associated with the project. That would be my motion, and then I just have a comment.
Okay, and we second by Director Davis. And you had a comment, Director Abram?
Thank you, Martin. I just wanted to say that this, we've already gone through all of this with staff and with the ministries and all of the people that we have to apply to. This is just the finalizing our part of it officially at the board table. That's why it's here. It's already happened, and we've already met with Minister Selena Robinson at UBCM. This was one of the three topics that we talked about, along with Recreate, this, and what was the third one? Sorry, drawing a blank. Oh, Connected Coast. So, yeah, so I think, this is hopefully going forward. I believe the deadline, and Aniko, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the deadline is the end of this month, October 30th. And after that, we will receive some sort of notification whether we got it or not. It's for $2.2 million. So this is a big deal.
Okay, thank you. And I have Director Cornfield with a question.
My understand, I looked down and it says supports the project, commits to its share of costs or cost overruns. I'm assuming that this will be covered under the grant, which for communities less than 5,000 is 100%.
Correct.
Grant.
That's correct.
So if you're qualifying for 100% costs, then why would they have a clause in there on cost overruns?
I'd have to defer to Dave on that.
Well, typically they'll have that in there that if we make the application for $2.2 million, anything over and above that, we'd be responsible for. Okay,
and would it be covered by the whole board out of our general administration, or would it come out of electoral area budget?
Area C, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Aniko did mention it's October 22nd is the deadline.
Well, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? See none, anyone opposed? See none, I'll call that carried. Item 7, North Quadra open burning regulation. Director Abram?
Yeah, move receipt of the report.
Seconded by Director Lee. Anything to add, CEO?
I do on this. It was a little bit unusual that we brought a report to the electoral area services, and we had a couple recommendations on there, neither that were supported by the committee, which is fine. However, we're getting calls from residents, and we want to provide some input to them or conclusion to the project, if it will. So again, we've got a couple options if we want to continue on or close the door on this, just to be able to provide some feedback to some of the people that are continuing to contact the regional district in terms of this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing one, anyone opposed to the CO report?
I have a comment, actually.
Director Lee.
We have been mulling this around for over a year, I believe. One lady has kept on writing to us for services to North Quadra. Problem is they don't have a fire service on North Quadra. And, while the survey that they got back said everyone would like to have fire service, nobody wants to pay. And I think that this matter should be, that no further consultation be undertaken until more than 50%, I was just typing this out, of the residents of North Quadra and 50% of the property values petition the regional district for a service at the price it will cost them to put in a new fire hall.
Is that a motion?
Otherwise, yeah, it's basically option A, I think.
Option one was to basically cease any work on it, which is fine if that's what the committee or board wants. And option two is just to continue further investigate options. So again, just some closure on this, or we continue working on it.
Okay, I have Director Anderson.
Thank you. I think in effect, the Director Lee's suggested motion and option one is the same as our CEO has just said. It's just that Director Lee's motion lets the public know really clearly what they could do if they wanted to advance the matter. I think maybe a cleaner version would just be say, unless we are petitioned for service, and just, leave the details out of it. So I would support some version of that motion from Director Lee just because of clarity, or option one, and then some communication out to the residents saying, unless there's a formal petition for service, this matter is closed. And would appreciate any thoughts from the director for the area.
Okay, and I've got Director Cornfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is not open burning for those areas outside of the fire protection area regulated and governed by Plinro?
Yes.
Or BC Wildfire?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's not that there isn't any restrictions, it just may not be as, can I use the word severe, as some people would perhaps like that reside in that area?
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, yeah, there's a group of residents there that would like enhanced regulations, if you will, and we've worked towards, trying to find solutions that may satisfy the group. So far, the solutions that we've identified, I think, have been a little too expensive. So but they continue to lobby us in terms of wanting some enhanced service out there. So this is what we brought to the committee, and we're just looking for some resolution of, should we continue moving forward, or should we just cease and desist on this?
Okay, thank you.
I have Director Lee.
Yes, I sent a little note saying that I would like to recommend that no further.
Director Lee, just before you say that, Tom.
It's on the screen.
Yeah, I see that. Tom, can you please clarify? I don't believe I've got a question on the CO report at this time.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. You still have a motion to receive the report on the floor.
After a motion to receive, I'll make a motion.
Super, thank you very much. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question on the receipt of the CO report. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I call that carried. And Director Lee.
I would like to make a motion that no further public consultation be undertaken by the SRD until more than 50% of property owners and or 50% of the property values petition the regional district to say they are in favor of such a service. That is how, okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Have you
Do I
got
have a
that,
second?
Edith?
Director Field seconded. Director Lee.
Okay, so speaking in favor of this motion, it is normal practice that when a new service is developed, that the taxpayers get to provide their consent to the regional district through a petition. And I think it's time to put the ball in the court of the people of North Quadra. If they want the service and they want to pay for it, they need to let us know by petition. That's how all functions get created, or most of them. We just had an example of a person on Cortez wanting to have his property removed from the fire service over there. And, you know, there's more to it than simply somebody writes us a letter and we go over there and provide numerous consultations. We've been doing that for the past year. We're getting nowhere. Time to put the ball in the citizens' court.
So
Thank you.
Director Lee, if I may add, just a reminder to directors, if you have motions, please have them typed up and give them to Edith before the meeting. Director Lee, you've written a motion in chat, which Edith has copied on here, but what you read out was quite different than that.
Yes.
It should be after values. It should say in favor.
Just slow down.
Of the
Can you just appreciate that Edith is trying to keep track here? You don't have the motion written down, and just watch on the screen and kind of talk with her typing, as it's very difficult.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm sorry. I would put that exactly as I wrote, that no further public consultation be undertaken until more than 50% of property owners and 50% of property values in favor of a fire service for North Quadra be received by the SRD.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's moved, and that's seconded by Director Cornfield. Any other discussion? Seeing none, those opposed?
Could Director Unger,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I can't find the raise my hand function somewhere here, but it's not there. This issue is just totally. It has been around the block many times, as Brenda has said. I don't know what the answer is. The problem is, as far as I can see, is that there is no single answer from the North Islanders. If they could come to an agreement on one direction or the other, then perhaps we could move forward. But there seems to be quite a mix of, we want this, we want that, we want something else. I think Director Lee's motion will put it in a frame of at least one of the options will be either taken up or eliminated. I believe the wording is usually 50% representing more than 50% of the value. So maybe you want to change the motion to be the usual jargon that the region uses.
Yeah, we could use the usual wording, but I think that the staff know what I'm talking about. There?
Yeah, it's clear to me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I've got Director Anderson.
If it's clear to staff, perhaps it's not critical. I'm just trying to make it clear to the public. We usually would say petition for service. So I just wonder if the mover would add in there a public consultation, taken until more than 50% petition service to the regional district or something.
Petition in favor of fire service.
Yeah, just I think
it's
petition.
all the same. It's just reordering the words, but the same way we normally have citizens get a new service. They quite often petition, and that's how they can get a new service. And so then if they send us a petition, we can delve into what it's going to cost them to build a new fire hall and what the taxation is going to look like to them.
Okay, so I think CO understands the motion.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Any other discussion? See none. Anyone opposed? See none. That's carried. Item 8, Sandwood Valley Recreation and Community Use Service. Director Wally?
Yeah, move receipt, and I have a subsequent motion on this as well.
Okay, move receipt and seconder.
Second.
Director Lee? Anything to add, CO?
Nothing from staff, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Director Wally?
Are you going to call a question, and then I'll make my subsequent?
If you got nothing to add, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I call that carried. Director Wally?
Thank you. I would move option C in the staff report, which says proceed with options A and B concurrently. And if you wish, I can read out A and B, or if that's not necessary, I won't.
I don't think necessary. Do I have a seconder? Second by Director Adams. Any other discussion? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Seeing none, I call that carried. Item 9, Cortez Island zoning bylaw, cannabis production and sale. Director Anderson?
Yeah, move receipt.
Q, seconder.
Second.
Q, anything to add, CO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Q, anything to add, Director Anderson?
Yeah, just thank you really briefly that in areas C and D, there were amendments made to the zoning bylaws with regards to cannabis production because there were applications that drove those amendments. In this case, it had been punted to the overall review of our zoning bylaw, which has been taking some time. So I'm just asking that there be a very simple, similar amendment made to our zoning bylaw that would clarify the permissibility and legality of cannabis production in all of our, on Cortez as well. Thank you.
Q, and Director Adams has a question?
If
Written there, and that is the site-specific zoning the same as what was in Area D?
Through the chair, sorry, Director Adams, I didn't quite hear your question, but what I'll comment on, and hopefully I provide you the appropriate response, is that the amendments that were done to the Area D zoning bylaw included amendments to permit cannabis retail sales in those zones that are currently zone commercial 1 and 5, which permit retail use. And there was also amendments done to allow for cannabis production through the agricultural use on any properties of 5 acres or more in size.
So my question, if I may, is does this motion for Cortez, does the site-specific zoning, is that basically the same as what we did for Area D, or are we making a different permit or permitting process?
Through the chair, I would require further consultation with the director as to the exact method in which she would like this to be addressed through the zoning bylaw. But what I'm hearing is it would likely be something similar to what Area D did, as opposed to Area C, where zoning amendments will be required for any future applications.
Okay, thank you.
I can offer comment if you like.
If I may, just as a follow-up, I'm just looking for ease for staff that there is consistency across the regional district.
Yeah, thank you, Director Adams. Director Anderson, you had a comment?
Thank you. Just in partial response to Director Adams' question, I would very much welcome the opportunity to discuss this with staff and get further clarity around options to proceed. I'm simply trying to get this, in the list of work items to be addressed. We don't currently have consistency throughout the regional district. Area C and D chose very different approaches. Area D, permitting it in some circumstances without direct application, and Area C, as far as I understand it, requiring site-specific zoning. I'm looking to be able to allow cannabis production and sale pretty much in alignment with the existing provincial and federal regulations without requiring site-specific zoning, but delighted to work with staff to bring something back for the public's consideration that I think might work here.
Okay, thank you, Director Johnson. I have Director Lee.
Yes, just for the board's edification, Area D believes that The federal and provincial governments are responsible for the legislation that they put in place for cannabis. It is a legal product, and these changes to Area D's zoning bylaw were not site specific. They were simply acknowledging that cannabis exists, growing cannabis exists, and that they should follow the federal and provincial legislation. The public hearing was waived, and we put a big half-page ad in the newspaper, color. Not a single response was received. So people are not concerned that local government should get involved in zoning those cannabis sites, because zoning it means we would have to administer, you know, the bylaw enforcement on it. And in my opinion, the Canadian government and the BC government are responsible for their own enforcement. It's their law.
Okay, thank you, Director Kelly. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the CO report? Or sorry, anyone opposed? Seeing none, I'll call it carried. And item B, Director Anderson?
Move B, and that's that an amendment to the Courtisan zoning bylaw be prepared that would permit cannabis production and sale without the requirement for site-specific zoning.
Second.
Okay, we have a second to Director Lee, and all electoral areas only. Anyone opposed?
Director Wally.
Wally's opposed. That's carried. Thank you. Item 10, electoral area administration service. Motion to receive.
Move receipt.
Seconder.
Second.
Second. Ingram. CAO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any discussion? Director Anderson.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief, but to reiterate what I said at EASC, I don't support this move. I don't think we should be funding other services through the electoral area administration service, whether they be grant and aid or planning or fire or anything else, and that seems to be the intent here. So I'll be voting against this.
You know, I have Director Cornfield.
Just a question through to the electoral area directors. What would the purpose or reason for wanting to consolidate grants and aids to a single service as opposed to the way we do it now, which is by electoral area?
Director Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an advantage to us because several of the organizations that we all give grants and aids to independently, this would give us the opportunity to coordinate that, make one single grant and aid, and the right hand would know what the left hand's doing. Otherwise, we don't really have any communication on these things. So that would be helpful, I think, for everybody.
Okay, CEO.
Nothing to add, no.
Okay. Director Cornfield, did you have something to add?
No, I just thank Director Wally. I think a lot of the grants and aids are area specific, so it may help with a few grants and aids, but I don't think it would cover off the majority of the grants and aid.
Could I respond, Mr. Chair?
Director Wally, go ahead.
Thank you. That may be true, Director Cornfield. That's why we're only asking for a report on this, to come back to the board, take a look at it and see what advantages and disadvantages there might be.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
Okay, and I have Director Anderson next.
Yeah, I don't think this is a useful use of staff time at this time. What I've really heard around the electoral area table is a bit of a different answer to Director Cornfield's question, and that's wanting the voting rights around grant and aid to remain with electoral areas rather than go to the board. At present, they're single participant services, and although they go to EASC first for consideration, ultimately the final vote is with the full board. And my understanding is this is a desire to have the grant and aid final vote be with the electoral area directors, because the electoral area administration vote is with the electoral area directors only. And I don't think that would be in our best interest.
Okay, thank you. I have Director Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Interesting, because one of the reasons that the grant and aid rules needed to tighten up was because of the Cortez applications for grants and aid. Now, I am in favor of the electoral areas having a service that they are responsible for. The Comox Valley put in an electoral area grant and aid function right when they left our Comox Strathcona district. And the 4 rural directors down there have been cooperating and making decisions on grants and aid so that they don't overlap. They don't, for example, each give one organization a large amount of money. They coordinate how much they're sending out. And it is the rural areas taxpayers' funds that we're talking about. It really has nothing to do with any of the other jurisdictions on our board. And I think it belongs in electoral area administration. I think it would be a much easier function to administer. And I would like to see it happen.
Okay, thank you.
And each director, I mean, if Director Anderson doesn't like, cooperating with the other 3 rural directors, she can stay on her own and go in front of the board and get her things voted on by the board.
Fine. Okay, Director Cornfield. Then Director Abram.
Okay, I just want to say thank you for the clarity. I don't have a problem with a report being prepared. I do feel that all the directors on the board form an important oversight when it comes to the appropriateness of grants and aids. And that's why we're always do the other way. The way it's been done in the past is it comes back to the entire board. That provides the oversight necessary for the public. And I have no problem with a report being prepared, especially when I heard 2 different responses as to the reason that this was being asked for.
Okay, thank you. And to end up, Director Abram.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I think Director Cornfield said it, a number of others said it. This is basically to ask for a report to be prepared to examine the possibilities. So that's all we're asking for. And according to Dave, in order to get a report prepared, we can't ask for it just at the committee. We have to bring that request from the committee to the board and ask the board to say, can we have a report prepared? So that's all we're asking for. Is who knows what's going to come back? It could be that no, it doesn't work that way, or yes, it does, or here's 16 options. But without the report, we don't know. So all we're asking for here is put it back to staff to do a report. Period.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else on the speakers list. So I'll call question on the CEO report. Anyone opposed? Director
I
Anderson?
sign in that I'm opposed, Director
Yes.
Moglove.
Director Moglove is opposed.
Sorry, is this A or B?
This is A.
Apologies, I'm not opposed to receiving a report, so I would support A. I would not support B. Apologies.
Yeah, me too. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. So I don't see anyone opposed, so A is carried. On to B. That a report be prepared to examine the possibility of using the electoral area administration service to provide financial assistance to organizations within the AA service. Moved by Director Wally, second by
Director Lee.
Director Lee.
Colburn actually was ahead of me.
So anyone opposed? I have Director Oglove, Director Anderson,
Colburn.
Director Colburn. I'll call that carried. Okay, on to number 11, Director Remuneration, Public Hearings. Motion to receive the report.
So moved.
Director Abram, second by Director Davis, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a small amendment to the director remuneration as a result of our virtual online meetings. There's a little change in our public hearing structure, and this is a suggested amendment from the electoral area services.
Okay, thank you. I've got Director Cornfield.
Just a comment, and I wasn't looking at this in light of a virtual meeting, but compensation, remuneration, if it's at the same location on the same day, to me, we should not be billing for remuneration for two separate meetings. And I would really question the rationale for that. But I'm allowed to comment on it, but I'm not going to be voting because I'm not in the electoral area, but I really question the need to be compensated for meetings that occur on the same location and the same, basically same time frame.
Okay, thank you, Director Cornfield. Director Anderson.
Thank you. To reiterate the comments I made at EASC, and just for the record, I completely concur with the last comment. Not only are they the same time and the same place, they are indeed the same meeting. We don't open and close separate public hearings even for OCPs and zoning bylaws from my memory of things. And if I'm wrong on that, certainly there's no extra work involved from a public perspective. There's very rarely any distinction made. There's not really any more work provided. And indeed, in this time of online meetings, we don't even have to travel to meetings and take the time associated with that. So I'm outvoted at EASC on this one, but I won't be supporting this.
Thank you. Director Adams.
Thank you again. Similar to Director Cornfield, while I don't have a vote or vested interest in this particular motion, as a member of the board, I feel I do need to make comment, and this is, and please don't take offense, but this is nothing more than double dipping, and would strongly advise that this not be pursued.
Thank you. Director Lee.
Yes, I would like to comment. These bylaws that come before us, they take a lot of work before they go to public hearing. And after the public hearing, it takes a lot of work to review all the input from the public hearing and to determine how one is going to vote on the issues. Sometimes public hearings, I mean, this is right now, COVID, things are a little different. Public hearings are not what they were when you go in person. I've been to a public, for example, Greg Seafoods had a public hearing in Sayward. The public hearing, the rezoning bylaw went till 1 o'clock in the morning. And there was 4 to 8 inches of material submitted that we had to go through after the hearing was closed. It's not just the time that you're sitting in front of the public, that you're working on a public hearing. It's a lot of work. And if it's going to get down to, okay, we're not going to be paid for an application, 2 applications in the same night, then maybe we should just hold the event on 2 separate nights, and that would be even harder. So I don't agree that, sometimes it is not a lot of time involved and other times it's a lot.
Okay,
and I think the electoral area directors know well enough how much work it is. So we can we can always choose not to receive the pay if we don't want to.
Thank you. Director Cornfield.
Just last comment from me is that the amount of time that's spent before the public hearing is what your regular stipend is used to calculate or to cover off. That's why a stipend is received. It's no different than a regular director. We all spend time. Sometimes we spend considerable time on other items that are on our agendas or of areas that are of interest to the RD. And that's what my stipend is for. We're talking about compensation for a meeting, and to have a meetings at the same time, same location, same place. I agree with Director Adams' comment. It's like double dipping. You're covered for your prep time and your regular stipend, and this is to compensate for the actual meeting.
Okay, thank you. And Director Moglove.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just add my voice. I totally agree with Director Cornfield and Director Adam. I would add that I don't think it's like double dipping. It is double dipping. We all do public hearings. We do them at the city. And so I definitely think we understand what work's involved in preparing for a public hearing. To be paid twice for the same meeting at the same time, same location is, in my view, totally unacceptable.
Yep. And Director Abram.
Yeah, I didn't know I had my hand up, but I guess I did. Actually, we're not talking about the same meeting at the same time. We're talking about two separate meetings that in the past were always closed and reopened. And it's only most recently that we have started not doing that. So, you know, if you would see the amount of material, the after the hearing material that has come out of the last number of hearings, and we're going to see the same for the next couple of hearings that are coming up, especially the one on Cortez. It's like a couple of days of extra work. So I'm sorry, but you know, this is not double dipping. This is not pretending to be double dipping. This is going back to what we used to be compensated for, and that's all it is. And they, you know, I think we've probably had enough discussion on it.
Yep.
We know where the board stands. Can we just call the question?
Okay, thank you. Just have one clarification from Director Anderson.
I was just hoping for clarity from staff on that point that both Jim and I raised from different perspectives. My memory was that it's always actually been one meeting. We don't even open and close an OCP meeting and then open and close a zoning bylaw meeting, that they are indeed the same meeting, and Director Abram is saying otherwise. I'm wondering if staff can just clarify.
Okay, go ahead, Aniko.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Both John and I did research on this, and neither of us could find any instance since 2010 where we opened and closed a public hearing for an OCP and zoning bylaw amendment when considered as a joint amendment for a specific application. The only time we open and close a public hearing when we have one meeting is where we have multiple zoning applications for multiple or multiple zoning bylaws for multiple applications.
Okay, thank you. Okay, see no more discussion, so call question on the report. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, and item B, all electoral area directors, moved by Director Wally. Second by Director Lee. Any other discussion? See none, anyone opposed? Director Anderson's opposed. I'll call that carried. On to item 12, economic development funding, Quad Island Conservancy Stewardship Society. Director Abram.
Yes, I'd like to move receipt of the CAO's report.
Second
by Director Wally. Anything to add, CAO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Director Abram. Anything to add?
Yeah, nothing to add. Just this is something that's incredible Conservancy Stewardship Society that has done remarkable work for our community.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? See none. Anyone opposed? See none, I call that carried. And item B,
I would move item B, that the board approve an economic development grant for the Quadra Island Conservancy Stewardship Society in the amount of $1,500 to assist with insurance premium costs to be paid from the Electoral Area C Economic Development Service budget.
I'm going to second by Director Wally. Anyone opposed? See none, I call it carried. Item 13, request for financial assistance, Quadra Cat Rescue. Director Abram.
Move receipt of the CAO's report.
Second, Director Wally. Any discussion, CO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Director Abram, anything to add?
No, nothing to add, just that this is a great service that's really taken off over the years.
Excellent, thank you. No other discussion, call question, anyone opposed? So seeing none, called carried. Item B,
That the grant and aid for Quadra Cat Rescue in the amount of $1,500 be approved to assist with costs associated with controlling the unwanted cat population on Quadra Island to be paid for from the Electoral Area C grant and aid budget.
thank you. Seconder, Director Wally. Any discussion, seeing none, anyone opposed? Seeing none, I call it carried. Okay, we're in the bylaws, bylaw 9495, OCP zoning amendment, CP3C 09RZ 2C 09 Shelenik. Motion to receive, Director Abram.
Motion to receive the report of the CAO.
Do we have a seconder? Director Lee. Anything to add, CEO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion?
I guess one thing, just to make sure that before I make the next motion, this will be, I assume, because we're making minor amendments to bylaws number 9495, that this will be coming back to us in complete form with all the details in one place at one time at another meeting. Is that correct?
CEO?
Aniko? Yeah. She's got correct.
Aniko says correct.
Great.
Okay. Seeing nothing else, I'll call question. Anyone opposed to the report? Seeing none, I'll call it carried. Item B.
That minor amendments to bylaws number 9495 be prepared for consideration by the board.
Thank you. Second by Director Anderson. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all electoral areas. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I call it carried. Item 2, bylaw 352, rezoning quadraphonics cannabis production. Director Abram.
It gives me great pleasure to finally receive the report from the CAO on this issue.
Yeah. Second by Director Davis. In the ad, CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call question. All opposed? Seeing none, I'll call that carried. Item B.
Item B, I would move that the report on the public hearing for bylaw number 352 and all related records be received.
Okay. Second by Director Wally. And we have a comment, Director Anderson.
Thank you. I will be supporting this application because I want to support the application itself in the specifics of quadroponics. And I've raised this concern before at EASC, but I am concerned that people are perhaps not aware that in so doing, cannabis production has essentially been not permitted on the rest of the island. And given the almost complete lack of engagement at the public hearing, it really makes me wonder whether the public understood this. So absolutely, I think that we should support this application at this time, but I wonder whether there shouldn't be consideration of some kind of community outreach and engagement around the effects community-wide after this specific application. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Johnson. Any other comment?
Yeah, so I'd like to comment on that comment. And that is that this issue has now been back and forth to this board and to committee probably, I don't know, half a dozen times. There have been 2 public engagements with the entire community of Quadra Island and anybody else from Area C that wanted to attend. The applicants were there, the owners of the property were there. Great presentations were made. Our staff were there to explain it. People understand what this is. They do understand it, and I would, suggest that it is a slight to the community to say that they don't have the wherewithal to understand what's being put before them and has been put before them, and they have agreed to through a public hearing process. It's done. So,
Okay, thank you. Director Anderson?
Yeah, no slight intended at all. I noticed in the reports from the public engagements and the Dotmocracy, the excellent work that staff and the community did through those engagement processes, that there was a lot of support for greater permissibility in the island in general. And I wouldn't expect that people would come out in opposition to this site-specific application. I think it's problematic to tie the two. I certainly feel torn because of that. I want to support quadroponics, but I'm concerned that not permitting it island-wide is not what I saw as the result of the public engagement. So I certainly feel torn, and I doubt I'm the only one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on item B, call question. Anyone opposed? Call that carried. Item C, bylaw 352 be given 3rd reading. Moved by
yeah, I would
Director Abram,
move that.
second.
Second.
Director Wally.
Mhm.
All area directors only. Call question. Anyone opposed? See none, I'll call that carried. Item D, bylaw 352 being Quadra Island zoning bylaw 1990 amendment 127 be reconsidered, finally passed and adopted. Motion received.
And I would
Director Abram,
be glad to move.
Joe, seconder. Director Wally. Electoral area only. Anyone opposed? See none, I call it carried. Item 3, bylaw 383, 384, OCP amendment and rezoning. CP1C 19.
Move receipt of the
Go.
Move-
Seconder.
move receipt of the report.
Go. Second by Director Lee. And the ad CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion? See none. And anyone opposed? Carried. Item B.
Item B, that the report of the public hearing for bylaws 383, 384, together with all supporting documentation be received.
Joe, seconded by Director Lee. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, call it carried. Item C, bylaw 383 be given 3rd reading. Area directors only.
So
Moved by Director
moved.
Abrams, second by Director Lee. Any opposition? Call that carried. Item D.
I
Bylaw
would move
383.
that. You want to read it? Go ahead.
Joe, do I have a seconder?
Would move it.
Director Kerr. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. And item E.
Item E, I would move with 384 be given 3rd reading.
Joe, seconder. Director Wally. Anyone opposed? Seeing none is carried. And item F, Director Lee moved it.
Item F, I would move bylaw number 384 being Quadra Island zoning bylaw 1990, amendment number 132 be now reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
Cool. Second by Director Anderson. All areas only.
And
Anyone
discussion?
opposed? See none carried. Item 4, bylaw number 386, rezoning proposal, Quadra Island fire protection. Director Abram,
I would move the CAO's report.
Cool. Seconded by Director Evans. Anything to add, CEO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Cool. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Call it carried. On to item B.
The report of the public hearing for bylaw 386 together with all supporting documentation be received.
Cool. Seconded by Director Lee. Director Anderson has a question.
Thank you. In one of, I think, the only 2 or 3 submissions to this, there was a question raised by somebody at the public hearing with regards to the setbacks and how that would limit the usability of the property, suggesting that the setbacks of the zone being applied for were quite onerous and would not allow for much building or development on the property. I wonder if that concern is shared by staff or the applicant, or anybody knows anything. I wasn't there.
Okay, thank you. I've got Aniko.
Thank you through the chair. It was a misinterpretation by the public as to the setback requirements and where the front and rear road were located. So in response to that, staff does not have any concerns.
Great, thank you.
Okay, see nothing further. Call question on B. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I call it carried.
Item C, that bylaw 386 be given third reading.
Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Director Lee, thank you. Any discussion? Electoral area directors only? Anyone opposed? See none, I'll call that carried. Item D.
Bylaw number 386 being Quadra Island zoning bylaw 1990, amendment 134 be now reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
Joe, seconded by Director Anderson. Electoral areas only. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, call it carried. Item E. Bylaw 384 be given third reading.
Move receipt.
Seconder.
Sorry.
Cool. Any
Where do you see
discussion?
E?
Mr. Chairman, I think seems that we've gone backwards in the agenda.
Oh, it's all right. Yep, 383 is up top. We should be done.
This is 404.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're on 404 now.
Yep.
Okay, motion to receive the report.
Move.
It's up for receipt already. We already moved and seconded it.
Okay, sorry. Item B then, bylaw 404.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe we have no record of this report being received yet.
Okay.
I
So
moved it and Colleen Evans has seconded it.
there you go. You got that
Just needs the question to be called.
question called. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, call it carried. Clarify me, we're on item B now.
Correct.
Move B.
Move B. Do I have a seconder? Director Wally, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Seeing none, I call it carried.
Move
Item C,
Move C.
Director Cornfield, second. Director Wally. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Call carried. Item
Move.
D,
Move D.
second by Director Lee. No discussion? Call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I'll call it carried. Bylaw 405, Surgeon Narrows Community Association. Motion to receive.
Motion to receive the report.
Seconder, thank you, Gerald. Director Wally. Anything to add, CAO?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion? Call question. All opposed? Seeing none, I'll call carried. Item B,
That bylaw number 405 being a bylaw to provide an exemption from taxation for a specified real property located on Reed Island be now introduced and read a first time.
second by Director Wally. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, call carried. Item C, rules be suspended. Bylaw 405 being second and third reading.
So moved.
Director Abram, second by Director Lee. Any discussion? Seeing none? Question? All those opposed? Carried. Item D,
Item D, I would move the bylaw number 405 being Surgeon Narrows Community Association Property Tax Exemption Bylaw 2021 be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
thank you. Second by Director Davis. Any discussion? Seeing none? Question? All those opposed? No one? I call it carried. On a correspondence. Motion to receive correspondence. All five?
You
Five.
Director Anderson,
Could you pull number
Seconder?
2?
you pulled two.
Yes, please.
Okay, so just a slight amendment and motion for one.
Pull 4 too.
Okay, so let's go on to item 1. Canada Be Safe Restart Plan. Motion receive.
So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
Joe, any discussion? See none, question? Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 2, Vancouver Island Regional Library. Motion to receive.
So moved.
Seconder. Director Anderson, Director Adams. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Director Lee.
Director Lee. I'm still chairing the library board, and last week we got all these reports out. I hope the board would have a chance to read the links that are listed in those reports so that you get a good idea of what kind of work this board, Vancouver Island Regional Library Board, is doing for you. It's the most amazing board, and the things they've accomplished this year are just phenomenal. And so the 2019 annual report is particularly wonderful if you want to read that. And the budget is passed. So that was the main action item at the last board meeting. And let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? On receipt, anyone opposed? Seeing none, call that carried. Item B. That's September 24th, 2020 correspondence from the library be received.
So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
Joe, any discussion? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item C, December 19, 2020 report from the VIRLB entitled "The Board Table" be received.
Receipt.
Joe, seconder, Director Evans. Any discussion? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Carried. Item 3, Municipal Finance Authority BC, motion to receive. Director Davis,
So moved.
seconded by Director Adams. Any discussion?
If I may, Chair, just to advise that at the virtual meeting during the UBCM convention, I was reelected as trustee for the Municipal Finance Authority.
Excellent, thank you, congratulations. Anything else? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I'll call it carried. Item 4, Connecting BC Program. Motion
I would
receive.
move that the September 21st, 2020 news release from Civic Info BC regarding the Connecting British Columbia program be received.
Thank you. Second by Director Evans. Any discussion?
Yes.
Director Cornfield.
I wanted to find out whether or not this would include the last mile services and whether or not how this would fit in with our Connected Coast project.
I'll answer that, Mr. Chair. So it's basically the entirety of it is last mile projects, and it's completely in with Connected Coast, and we will be pursuing a ton of this money. We've been in communication with Network BC in the province, and there's only really 3 or 4 people that can even apply for this. It's ISPs that can access this money, which means Shaw, TELUS, and City West, because you have to be an experienced ISP, and we will be pursuing this money on behalf of all the communities, and we've been instructed to go to communities and get letters of support. So what we'll be doing is coming to all communities in the SRD and on Vancouver Island and looking at their last mile requirements and making submissions on their behalf.
Okay, does it also include the mainland coast portion of the project?
Everything relates to Connected Coast, absolutely.
Okay, and then final one is my concern. The applications have to be in October, but I'm assuming this press release came out before the call for the election. And my understanding is that approvals for any of the grants will be after the election, depending on who gets elected.
Yeah, this money, it's funneled through NDIT, and I actually don't believe, I was just talking to him yesterday, it has a submission date. These kind of last mile submissions are generally ongoing. So there's no tight time frame where we need to get submissions in, but we're working on that as we speak.
Okay, and no implications because it's being handled by the Northern Interior Development Trust. There won't be any sort of political changes or requirements with the election?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. That sounds great. Good news.
Yeah, it's really good.
Thank you, Director Cornfield. Any other questions? See none, anyone opposed? See none, I'll call carried. Item 5, Community Emergency Preparedness Fund. Motion received.
So moved.
Director Lee, seconder.
So moved.
Director Davis, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? I'll call carried. No member reports, no management reports, no new business, no addendum. Closed session. Motion to receive.
Move
the
receipt
report.
of the CAO's report.
Director Lee, seconder. Director Kerr. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I call it carried. And item B.
Move B that we go in camera under 91C, E, F, G, K, N, O, and 91 to B of the community charter.
Joe, and second by Director Adams. Anyone opposed? Seeing none,
No.
call carried.
Okay, Mr. Chair, just before we adjourn,
Yes.
or terminate, I guess, but the process, do we leave this meeting? So
Yep.
click on our leave button and then rejoin the closed session?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, I will say goodbye then.
We should move a termination, Mr. Chair, before people leave.
Sorry, for that termination.
So moved, but if I could make a comment before we call the question on termination?
Okay, mover by Director Adams, second.
And Chair or Vice Chair now, Acting Chair, just want to compliment you on a great job today. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Adams. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, call carried. See you all in a minute or two.
Mr. Leach.
Yes. Hey, Julie.